The story of the penis of Osiris. It was apparently lost, and Isis got another one. All that stuff they talk about. And since that time, this has become the symbol of the male energy, the male phallic. And I must say, just a brief story. These symbols are actually manifestations of thought. So what these are built to represent is what they generate in terms of energy. I was inside a massive obelisk near a place called Hebden Bridge in England. And as I was climbing the stairs, it was so big it had a stone staircase inside it. The energy around me I just felt this enormous male sexual energy, and I thought, what's going on? Especially when you get to my age, you know. And then I realized, why am I feeling this? Well, what are you walking up inside your pillock, I thought? You're walking up inside a representation of the male phallic, therefore that's the energy it generates. It's very important that we're aware of this. These are not just symbols and what have you, in a secret language alone. They generate energy. And this is why you have these in specific points in the major cities, just like the domes. So here's the Washington Monument, the biggest stone obelisk in the world, right in the center of the Washington Street Plan, down from the White House. This is what's known in London as Cleopatra's Needle. Again, like the one in Paris, it was taken from Egypt. As an original, it was in the city of Hon or Heliopolis, the city or place of the sun, and was brought over during the reign of Queen Victoria. Again, this is on former Templar land. The Temple Bar is just across from here, where the center of the secret society network of the legal profession is based, in the former Templar land of Temple Bar. Here's, again, this 3,200-year-old obelisk in the city of Paris, from Luxor in Egypt. No accident. There's another one in Central Park, New York, I understand, as well. Here in the wholly owned Brotherhood city of Las Vegas, where they had a blank sheet of paper to start with, a blank sheet of land, they have just filled it with the symbolism of thousands of years. And here you have the big black pyramid, the casino. Again, that will be resonating energy in a certain way in that place of Las Vegas. There you have the big Sphinx, and there you have the obelisk as well. Now, one of the other things they do is that they symbolize the sun and the moon, in the sense that they put the building representing the sun, like the Arc de Triomphe, and they put next to the building what they call a reflecting pool. And the reflecting pool, this is the Lincoln Memorial in Washington here, just down from that obelisk, the reflecting pool reflects the building. In other words, the building is the sun, the water is the moon. And here's that symbolism again in Dealey Plaza this time, with the obelisk that the Freemasons put up there after Kennedy was killed. And again, it is the male phallic, the obelisk, reflected in the reflecting pool, which symbolizes the moon. They understand how these moon and sun energies can be used and manipulated, and that's one of the great areas of knowledge that has been kept from the rest of the population in the secret society network. And this goes back a very long time. Interestingly, it is this Brotherhood network that created Christianity and created Islam and all the other religions, and the biggest secret documents this in great detail. They created the religions as a prison religion and to imprison the mind of the populace, but they also built the cathedrals and the main churches, and they built them on the vortex points, on their sacred points, in a certain way. Again, I mentioned St. Paul's Cathedral was built on a former site of goddess Diana worship. The goddess Diana was one of the great goddesses of the ancient world. This is Notre Dame, Our Lady Cathedral in Paris, one of the most famous cathedrals in the world, Notre Dame. Because people thought Notre Dame, Our Lady, Mother of Jesus, it was taken as a Christian name. In fact, Our Lady is Isis, Semiramis, Diana, and these other names for the deities that the Brotherhood have worshipped over the period of thousands of years we're talking about. So look at that. That's Notre Dame, built with Templar money, Knights Templar money, to sacred geometry on a sacred vortex point. Now we'll just cross the English Channel. There's Westminster Cathedral. Could be the same building. Again, built with Templar money in that same period on a great vortex point. And you've got Big Ben to the left there, the famous clock on the Houses of Parliament, and that is a massive obelisk. And the Houses of Parliament, like Congress, are built on a sacred vortex point. The political buildings are actually temples. Interestingly, this is on Notre Dame Cathedral, and these are the gargoyles. Now, when you look at gargoyles, what are they? They are depictions of reptiles, reptilian forms, often with wings. Bizarre and amazing as it may seem, and I'm the first to agree with that, this is how ancient and modern these reptilians are described in ancient texts and by people who've seen them, and again, The Biggest Secret documents this in enormous detail. So on the cathedrals and on the stately homes of the British and European aristocracy, you find these reptiles. You also find them on or around a modern airport, Denver Airport. Why are gargoyles in Denver Airport? A modern airport built controversially and for an enormous amount of money in more recent years. It just so happens that those that research into these things, into the extraterrestrial influence on Earth, have designated that, and has some of the people involved in its construction, as a reptilian base, an Anunnaki base, actually in Colorado. In Dealey Plaza, where they killed Kennedy, one of the buildings of Dealey Plaza has gargoyles all over it. Why? Because this is symbolic of the bloodlines and where the bloodlines actually come from and what they're controlled by. This is a depiction 5,000 years BC in the Ubaid culture, the one that just preceded Sumer in what we now call Iraq, and this was a depiction of one of their gods. And again, the reptilian, lizard-type humanoid figure, ancient and modern, keeps coming up again and again, and you can see it also in the states, in the coats of arms and the family coats of arms of these aristocratic bloodlines in Europe. Okay, another indication of how this symbolism works and where they're coming from. This is George Washington. In the last century, they decided they didn't have a decent statue of George, so instead of getting an American to produce one, they ordered it from Italy, from Florence. And when it arrived on the dockside, people were staggered, because here was George, the first president of the United States, depicted naked from the waist up with this cloth over his Bill Clinton's, and then pointing up one arm, pointing down the other. What's going on? Unless you realize where these people are coming from, it's inexplicable. Well, if you just hold that in your mind, arm up, arm down, naked from the waist up, and then Bill Clinton's covered in a piece of cloth, well, this is where it's coming from. This is the ancient depiction of the compilation of the negative force symbol that the Templars worshipped, or the high-level Templars worshipped anyway, called Baphomet. And this is why they depicted George Washington in that way. Now, the skull and bones is a symbol you can keep picking up when you're trying to read the secret language also. The skull and bones was on the flag of the ships of the Templars, which is why it just got turned into the pirate flag in children's stories and stuff like that. And there was another organization called the Russell Group, the Russell Company, the Russell Trust, and they made a fortune. It's one of the bloodline families in America. They made a fortune running opium to China for the British during the Opium Wars, when Britain took over China by getting the population hooked on drugs, which is what's happening to the global population today, just a bigger version of it. And on the flags of the ships of the Russell Company running these drugs was the skull and crossbones. And so it's no surprise that it was the Russell Trust that created one of the most infamous secret societies in America, called the Skull and Bones Society. This is a Freemasonic apron from the last century with the skull and bones on. Why? Because the Freemasons came out of the Templars, and the Templars used the symbol of the skull and bones. In various paintings, not just the one I talked about earlier, the Leonardo da Vinci depiction of the Last Supper, but also in many others, you see the symbolism in the painting. This is one called The Ambassadors, which is in London on display. And at the bottom there, you see a very strange kind of, I don't know what it is. When you say to people, what do you think this is? They go, well, I don't know what that is. It's strange. What is it? What's he doing there? But if you look at it from a particular angle, and it has to be from a particular angle, then you start to see what that is in that painting, and it is a skull. And the skull and bones is a constant symbol through these thousands of years of this brotherhood.